Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloom. We are here with a marketing expert today, consultant, the founder and CEO of Provalytics, Jeff Greenfield. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, Shaheen. How are you doing? And listen, I'm psyched to be here today, let me tell you.
I can't wait to dive in, man. Marketing is probably my favorite thing to talk about because it's never the same conversation. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, right? So for those out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your company does.
Yeah, so our company measures the effectiveness of marketing. There's always been this marketing saying, half the money I spend in marketing is wasted. The only problem is I don't know which half. And so our company answers that question for marketers. We figure out what's working, what's not working, and then show you precisely how to redeploy the dollars that are being wasted into places where they should go. And I started this company in 2022. Before that, I had a company that did something similar, did that from 2008 all the way up until right before the pandemic, exited that company and thought I would never go back to this. And then the bottom dropped out of marketing, the way all of advertising technology, it all changed. And I said, I've got to come back because there's people out there that need my help. So I jumped back in.
Yeah, I love that. You know, the what you just said, people needed my help so I could jump back in, right? There's a reason why we do these things, right? And it's, I mean, obviously everybody wants to make money and make a difference, but like it's all about helping people, right? It's your duty. If you're really good at what you do, you feel like it's your duty. Like I got to get back out there. Like people need my help. Like this is a problem, right? And it's nice to think that you're making a small difference in the economy, right? Like, there's companies out there giving bad information, bad advice, leading people in the wrong direction. And so, companies like that do like what you guys do, I commend you because it's so important, with marketing. I don't care how long they've been in business or what kind of marketing you do. In the back of your mind, you're always thinking there's always a better way. There's got to be a better way to market this. There's got to be a better way, right? To get my cost per acquisition down or cost per lead or whatever, right? We're constantly trying to innovate and change our marketing strategy. How often when you're meeting with businesses are you finding out that none of what they're doing as far as marketing is the right move? Does that ever happen?
It does, because what ends up happening is they're not doing anything wrong. They're following what the numbers are telling them. Most marketers today, they call themselves a data-driven marketer. And that means I'm not just making this stuff up. I'm following the numbers. But the issue is that the numbers are leading them in a direction that actually benefits who's giving them the numbers. And the numbers that everyone is following is Google Analytics, what I like to call Google's analytics. Yeah. And what ends up happening is that marketers end up spending more dollars on the lower part of the funnel. Now you got to be there because that's when people are ready to buy. So you want to be there. But when you redeploy all your dollars there, then you're in this constant battle with your competitors where you're in an environment where it's all bidding. So now you're spending more dollars there. Your competitors are bidding more. And so what ends up happening is you make your funnel shorter. So you're reaching fewer potential customers. And when you do that, your cost per acquisition goes up. Your advertising has to work so much harder. And you reach that point where most businesses get to where they plateau. And they're like, I can't get this to work anymore. And it's because they've reached this point of what we call saturation, this point of marginal return. You can keep spending dollars. Google and Facebook and others will keep taking it, but your return is going to keep going down.
100%. And I think some people don't realize like that you don't have to be this massive company to reach the oversaturated part, right? Like even when I first started my company, little over 7 years ago, we were big on direct mail. And I only had 6 sales reps. So it wasn't like I was sending millions of, pieces of mail every week, but we were sending a good 10,000 pieces of mail every week. After 3 years, there wasn't a business in the country that didn't have our mail already. You know what I mean? So it constantly went down. We started at a 4% call-in rate, and then down to 3, and then down to 2, and then it got to a point where it was like a 0.5%. I'm like, oh God, we got to do something different here because this is oversaturated. We have maximized everything we could possibly do as far as direct mail goes. So is that a constant thing? Like, are we ever going to be able to find a marketing avenue that we can set it and forget it?
There's no such thing, because what ends up happening is that there's so much money to be made on the other side, on the advertising side.
Right.
So what ends up happening is that you set it, you're good to go. And then all of a sudden, Netflix, who for years says, we're never going to have commercials, all of a sudden starts having commercials.
Right.
And then they do it, and Amazon says, oh, that looks like a great idea. We're going to light up our advertising as well, too. Yeah. And then one night you're sitting there and you see a competitor's TV ad and you're like, damn, I think I need to get on Amazon Prime with my ads. And so that's what ends up happening is, and then what happens is the audiences get fragmented. So like today in the US, if you're selling to a man or a woman who's over the age of 40, you have to be in Meta. Okay.
Right.
Facebook, Instagram, you have to be there.
Yeah.
If you're trying to target 20-year-olds, don't be on Facebook or Instagram. They're not there. Chances are they're in TikTok or elsewhere. Right. So you have to kind of go where your audience is. So if you have a product that is anyone can buy, you kind of have to be everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Omnipresent is key, right? Exactly. Like you're going to have some people everywhere.
That's right. 1,000%.
Now, what do you recommend for business to business, right? So business owners, you're going to find someone on TikTok, you're going to find someone on Facebook. Most of them are going to have a LinkedIn. But what I've found with LinkedIn, everybody that's actually active on LinkedIn are all trying to sell something, right? So whenever you end up having a conversation with somebody on LinkedIn, they try to figure out how to reroute that conversation so they can try and sell you something. And it's always driven me crazy. So we've always stuck to the typical email marketing. We put a lot in email marketing. It's always trusted. It works. If you got the right email addresses, and it's getting into the inbox, it does really well for B2B. But anything besides that, we haven't really had a major win in any other marketing avenue. We had Facebook. We've had a couple ads that have done really well, and then they stopped doing well. And, Google ads, I mean, we had to completely stop that because, the election, they were putting way too much money into ads. Our cost per lead was just insane. But what are you seeing for B2B as far as, you can be omnipresent, but like, are there any specific areas that you're seeing are doing better than others for business to business?
Well, one of the most important things with B2B is to remember that when that person closes their laptop for the night, they're a consumer again. Mm-hmm. So the most successful B2B companies act like B2C companies.
Interesting.
So years ago, there was a company, NetSuite by Oracle. Yep. They were one of the ones that first started really pushing out like a consumer-driven company. Yep. And they advertised heavily on Sirius XMs, particularly on Howard Stern. And you're like, why are they advertising on there? And that they killed it from there. And going back to LinkedIn, or actually first going back to email works great, but there's that caveat, you got to hit the inbox. If you don't hit the inbox, right. It's like,
and it's expensive to build a system that's going to hit that inbox.
Exactly. But LinkedIn is great, but not to like sell stuff to people, because right. What ends up happening, someone connects with you and they immediately want to sell you something. They go like on a hide, you put them in the other inbox. Yeah. LinkedIn is great for networking, for connecting, saying, hey, Shaheen, I see you know so-and-so. Can you make an introduction for me?
Right.
That's a great thing for LinkedIn. But where LinkedIn has really taken off for larger advertisers, if you remember, Microsoft is kind of the sleeping giant in the world of advertising technology. They have Bing. It's kind of quiet. It's there. But now Bing results are starting to show up in ChatGPT.
Okay.
So a lot of folks that are doing SEO who have forgotten about Bing for years are starting to say, oh, I better get up and running on my Bing technique. So
Interesting.
that's one thing there. The second thing is that they also acquired LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, we know, is like the number one verified directory for business people.
Right.
So they know who you are because you log in on your mobile, you log in at work, you log in at home. And what have they done with that data? Well, you can now buy connected television based upon LinkedIn audiences. So the B2B clients that are doing well are using LinkedIn audience. You buy CTV. So they're buying TV ads through LinkedIn, but based
Interesting.
upon who your audience is. We also have some B2C companies who are targeting certain consumers that are also using LinkedIn for that. And that's killing it as well too. I'd say
Wow.
another big area as
And
well.
so you can buy TV ads through LinkedIn?
Yeah, you have to go through an account rep to do it. But
Interesting.
it'll start to be rolled out more and more. Another huge area as well that we see is being neglected a lot because it's had so much negativity associated with it is X, Twitter.
Mm.
Advertisers ran away from it like crazy. Even advertisers that were killing it on there ran away just because it had too much negativity associated with it. But
Right.
we've seen results from Twitter that are strong as television.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really does well because people on
Yeah,
there,
my results, like we get really great results on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok.
right.
But X, I mean, it's almost like we don't exist. Like I don't know
Wow.
what it is. Like I don't maybe I'm not I'm posting too many videos and too many words. I don't know. But yeah, I just haven't figured out X at all. And even when it was Twitter, just I don't know what it is about X or Twitter. I just never could get the hang of it.
Well, it right now because there's fewer people there, it's a bargain.
Right.
So it's a time to start
Yeah.
leaning into X
Yeah, I'll
and
definitely have
start
to check into
investing in
that.
it. Yeah, definitely.
Now, everybody has been on the AI wave. If they haven't started using AI, they need to, right? Because at some point, I mean, it's just like when the internet rolled out, right? Hey, everybody needs to start, taking advantage of the internet. The ones that didn't or don't have a website, they're not going to survive. And it's the same thing with AI, right? What are you noticing about how the marketing industry is changing in the way of AI? And is there any specific softwares or platforms that you think everybody should be using other than the main like chat gpt?
Yeah, so where AI is really going to take off is, and you've spent time, Shaheen, in all these different ad platforms. And
Yeah.
like Facebook Meta is really easy. Okay. You go in and you log in. Google is a real pain. It's a lot of work. It's more designed for like a professional to utilize.
Right.
But where things are getting, and you've already started to see this in both in Facebook and in Meta, is that you upload kind of your assets. You put up your logo, you let them know your brand colors, you put in some words. And this is for like, hey, and Facebook is the best at this because it's like, hey, it's like I have a florist shop. I don't know anything about marketing. It's like, give us your logo, give us your website, we'll build an ad for you. And so what they do is because they want to get you spending as soon as possible. So that's kind of
Right.
phase one. They build an ad. But you see, here's the thing is that, Meta knows who their audience is. They even know that someone may have an anniversary coming up and may be likely to buy flowers because they've seen pictures before.
Yeah.
And they may also, they may show them this ad to get them to buy. But where it gets really cool is that since they know things about all of us, we're getting to the point where eventually that ad will not look like the ad that they showed the advertiser. It'll be personalized for every single individual. So it's like,
Wow.
when you sit down and you do a Google search next to someone and you both
Right.
look at different things
Yeah.
and you're sitting right next to each other because it's personalized, advertising is going to be that same way. Now, a lot of the larger brands have stepped away from this because they're like, well, I need to have my brand control, brand safety. I need to know what's going on. But remember, Meta was built for the SMB, for the small business owner.
Right.
90% of their revenue is from your local florist,
Yeah.
business owner, stuff like that, not from Pepsi Cola.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
but that's where AI is really, really going to come in. I think the biggest skill for folks is to start utilizing the chat GPT and the Claudes out there to start seeing how it can help them in their day to day,
Right.
especially when it comes to writing content. It's a no
Yeah.
brainer.
Just to
And
get used to using it, like how to talk to it, is
yeah,
I've been trying to teach my wife how to use it for creating posts and ads for her real estate company. And it's funny, just the way she asked it to do something is like you would ask your friend. I'm like, no, you got to be very specific about what you want, and that's when you'll get a good response, right? Like AI is only as good as the person that's using it, right? Like AI
right.
is great, but if the person that's utilizing it or isn't asking in a certain way, or with certain words, and it can produce completely different results depending on who's using it, right?
And it also can be wrong. So that's the
Yeah,
other thing.
yeah,
I did
absolutely.
something. We had a client that sent us this file, all this data was supposed to be in a single spreadsheet.
Right.
Instead, they sent 365 individual files, one for each day. So I thought, no big deal. We can combine this in terminal on the machine. And then I looked at the files and I realized none of these files had a date field in it. The date was actually the file name. So I said, well, I don't know how to do this, because now I have to get it to add the date as a field in each file and then combine it. So I asked ChatGPT how to do it, and it gave me like this great code. I typed it into terminal and it was fine. And I left for 15 minutes.
All right.
I came back. You know how your Mac goes to sleep? I came back and it said my Mac was shutting down because it was almost out of space. Now I had a half a terabyte open, but it created this out of control process that was going nuts. And so I stopped it. I deleted all the files. I took back control of my MacBook, and it made me realize that you need to, if you're asking it to do something for you, you
Yeah.
need to watch it. So I
Yeah.
think that's an important caveat. But you're right. It is just like the internet. It's like learning how to type. It's
Yeah.
something that can help speed things up. The other thing that's important is to keep up with it, because it's constantly changing. But if you don't feel like you're ahead now, don't worry, because you can jump in at any minute.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's like the internet, right? Like there's some people that know, how important every certain keyword is, and like there's different levels to everything, right? Like there's some people, they know the only thing they know about the internet is how to do a Google search, and that's fine, right? But you've got to start somewhere. And there's all kinds of free courses online and on YouTube, and but yeah, you're right. I think it's just important starting somewhere, and it's never too late to start, right?
one of the best things about ChatGPT is the ability to personalize it. You can
Hmm.
tell it about yourself.
Right.
And
And it learns from you. It learns like how your mannerisms are, and how you talk. It's amazing.
And I actually have mine so that anytime I ask it something and it gives me an answer, it has to rate itself on a scale of 1 to 10. So I'll ask it to write something, and then it'll automatically say that was an 8 out of 10. And
Wow.
I'm like, you would think that the machine would give me a 10 out of 10.
Right. Give me a 10 out of
It
10.
doesn't. 8 out of 10. And then it says, to be a 10 out of 10, I would have to do this. Do you want me to do that? And I'm like, yeah, give me the best answer. So
Wow.
this is what's funny about it. So you can customize it to however you want it to be.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, there's so many different tips, like tricks, and I'm part of different newsletters from a couple of different marketing companies. It's constantly, there's new software and apps coming out every single day that do different things, and it's just all really, really cool. It's exciting to see. I'm excited to see where we're going to be in like another 5 or 10 years from now. Like it's almost unbelievable now, some of the stuff that we can do. It's almost scary to think about where we'll be in the next 5-10 years.
It's gonna be interesting, because right now all it is a word guessing game.
Right.
That's all it is. It knows how to guess what would be the next best word to put, and that's how it forms all these sentences, and it's guessing. it doesn't really know what it's doing. I don't think, there's all these debates. Will it ever know what it's doing? Will it ever can AI have a soul, essentially? There's a lot of believers that, and you start reading, you start realizing that people think we're going to get to the point where before we die, we'll be able to download our existence into AI and we'll be able to live on. But yeah, I don't see that happening. I think that's a great science fiction movie, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that'd be cool. But I don't think the powers that be would let that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was possible, right? Like, just imagine a world where nobody dies. Like, we wouldn't survive, right? Yeah, it just, yeah. I mean, it sounds cool. So, so explain a little bit about what. So when a company reaches out to you and they're like, "Look, I want to figure out what half of my marketing is not working." Generally, what does that process look like? Are you using a software? Is it based on data that's currently running? Like explain a little bit of how people can get your your expertise into their company to start obviously spending their money better when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, so Provalytics is a software. It's an AI-driven process that uses machine learning. We take in data from the different advertising platforms like Meta or Google or television or even direct mail, and we're able to connect the dots from there all the way down to their different conversions and KPIs. So, for example, we have a client who is a large direct-to-consumer client. They sell on their website, they sell on Amazon, they sell in Walmart, they sell in Target, and they sell in all these different places online.
Right.
So talking about omnipresence, and they spend in all of these different places, and it's all different teams and different agencies. So they bring us in to kind of look at, pan the camera back, look at the big picture, take a look at all of the spend, take a look at all of the sales, and try to figure out, are we spending too much on Amazon? Because what ends up happening, you spend dollars on Amazon to get people to buy on Amazon. But some people may look at it and they say, I wonder if they have a website. And they go to the website and buy. And if you spend money on TV, people are like, oh, that's great. I wonder if they're on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or they say, oh, I remember that product. And they walk into Target and they buy it. Yeah. So now the question becomes, I want to improve my ROI. So I want to squeeze more dollars out and I want to scale. So and I have more money to spend. Where should I spend more dollars? TV, Amazon, where should I spend? So what this platform does is it uses statistics to figure out where you should spend your next marketing dollars in order to get the biggest bang for your buck. And that's essentially what it does. Now, what ends up happening
now, what does that connect to? Is that connected to like the CRM and your bank accounts, or like what all do they need to have set up to be able to, for this software to run successfully and give them a good amount of data?
Yeah. So the nice thing about it is it doesn't need to connect to anything. At my former company, we would have to put JavaScript tags on the site and tags in all the ads, and it would take months to get set up. Right. There's nothing to set up. We're able to take the data out of the platforms. They come into in fact, all of this data, typically like their ad agency or someone already at the company has downloaded all this data. So they send it over to our platform. It crunches through the numbers, and then it creates a dashboard that it shows them all of this data. Now, it also outputs the data as what we call CSV files, because
so a company has to be organized enough to be tracking all those KPIs already.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they're in business, they should be tracking those numbers. Definitely.
Right. I mean, well, you'd be surprised, like for example, I think most companies track, the basics of their KPIs, right? How much does it cost to acquire a client? What's their cost per ad, their cost per lead, things like that. But getting more, I guess, intricate from there. I think a lot of companies don't do that unless they have the proper CRM or software that's actually doing it for them. Right.
We kind of separate the steps. So when you think about it, when you log into Meta and they have all those reports in there.
Right.
This would just be a report from Meta. So that's one thing. That's like the marketing stimulus. That's where you're spending your dollars. And then there'd be another report that would come from GA, which is how many visitors came to your website each day. And then another report that says how many leads you got each day or how much stuff you sold each day.
No.
So instead of like looking at what's my cost per sale or my cost per lead, our system is going to figure that out, but it's going to automatically deduplicate things. Because one of the issues you have is that if I'm spending money on Meta, on Google, and Reddit, and I have 10 leads that come in, well, actually, for every lead that comes in, Reddit, Google, and Meta are all going to claim they got me that lead. Now, when I look in Google Analytics, it's probably going to say Google got it by last click, but Meta's going to say, well, yeah, but they were looking at one of your ads. And Reddit's going to say, yeah, we saw them looking at one of your ads too. So what ends up happening is that if you have 1,000 leads in a month, let's say,
right,
you can end up with 5,000 mothers and fathers claiming that's my child paying
right.
them. And so what our system does is our system says, hey, we're not going to listen to them. The report I want from Meta is on every day, how many ads were shown, how many people clicked, what were the name of all the ads, and how much did you spend? I don't trust their numbers. Right. I don't trust Google's numbers. I don't trust Reddit's numbers. And then we use statistics, machine learning, and AI to figure out the math so that if you have 1,000 leads, we're going to show you who is actually responsible, not for each one of those leads, because remember, this is attribution. So Meta may get a little credit, Google may get a little bit more, and Reddit may get some. And then there may be some credit that just goes because maybe they knew about you before. And so we split things up so that it all adds up to 1,000. Because right now, most businesses, they look at that 5,000 number and they just they make a guess. And that's fine when you're starting to grow.
But so your system can actually tell where that came from?
Yeah, not only can it tell where it came from, but to prove things out even further, what we do is we show you how well the model predicts. So we do what's called a holdout, which is we will give our model, we'll go backwards and we'll say, on this day, Shaheen spent this much money in these different places. How many leads do you think he got? And we'll say 10. And it turned out you got exactly 10. So our models are predicting 85 to 95% accuracy.
Wow.
And so that's what you want, because if it can predict that well, then when it says, hey, you want to get more leads, move money from here to there. And you're like, okay, well, I can trust this, man.
Right. Yeah, because you're able to predict if you put X amount over here from here, what's going to happen within 85. What do you say, 85, 90%?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a very safe way to do marketing. That's for sure. Because marketing could be so expensive. I mean, one bad decision, it could be detrimental. I mean, it really can, especially for a small business, or a new business starting out, right? Like you're banking on this new marketing thing that you got sold on, and it's not what you thought it was. I mean, if you don't have the right consultants, the right people in your corner to really advise you on what to do, it can be, like I said, it could be detrimental. So,
well, one of the scary things is that each marketing campaign you run takes a different time frame to have an impact. Now, this is contradictory to what you see in Google Analytics. Google Analytics will tell you 95% of the people converted within 24 hours and the other 5% within 48 hours.
Right.
The reality is there's no math behind that at all. That's all they see is that little bit of data. We use statistics to determine at a campaign level how long it takes. And so then you start to see, like, well, maybe your paid social Meta is taking 20 days. So what does that mean? Well, it means if it's like 2 weeks and before the end of the month, and you need to really push it and you have a little bit of extra money to spend, but Meta's taking 20 days, don't put the dollars there, because the impact will be next month. But it also says that when you create a new paid social Meta campaign, you need to give it at least 30 to 40 days to have an impact. This is one of the problems with digital, is that it's so easy to turn things on and turn them off. And
And
sometimes,
turn them up.
yeah. And with advertising, sometimes you just got to sit on your hands and let it percolate. Let
Yeah.
it go
Yeah.
there.
Patience is definitely key when it comes to
Yeah.
marketing. I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way. And I think most people end up doing that. It's just one of those lessons that we all got to learn, right? But the data is really the most important for so if you've been listening to this whole conversation, that's what it boils down to: the data, and getting accurate data that's going to tell you the most accurate, as close to the truth as possible. And that's where you're able to make educated decisions that's going to move the needle in the direction that you need it to go.
No, you're right on with that, Shaheen. And the other biggest thing for folks to understand is that the way that we marketed last year is going to
Completely
be
different.
completely different. And for folks that have spent time in Meta, you may have logged in and noticed that it says you can't use this same targeting, this campaign. When this money runs out, that's it essentially. So, when you used to target down to everyone's, with somebody would renting or owning a home or leasing a certain made car, that's all gone. So we've spent the last 20 some odd years of hyper targeting, and because of privacy laws, we're now back to the way things used to be when all we had was TV and radio. And
Yep.
so if you've spent a lot of time understanding all of that, it's time to learn fresh again, because that's all going away.
Yep.
And so now it comes
100%.
down to understanding how these different channels interact and start thinking in terms about, how to better educate yourself, because things are changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're going to constantly change, right? I mean, it's just the way the world and the way it works, right? Marketing is heavily intertwined with technology, right? And technology is constantly changing, constantly evolving. But people are constantly changing and evolving too, right? Like the way people want to be marketed to now is way different than it was 10 years ago. I mean, even 5 years ago, right? People want something easy that can be done on their phone very fast, and it's just the way it is, right? Like, you go to the grocery store now, you don't even need to stand in line. You just scan everything as you put it in your cart and pay for it and walk out the door. It's just a completely different world, and it's going to constantly keep changing. So, Jeff, I'm going to ask you what you have for our guests and our listeners today. I'm hoping it's a course or a book, but what do you got for us?
What I got for you is, we've talked a lot about marketing today, and we kind of hinted at things have changed.
Yeah.
And what changed is all related to privacy. And as a marketer and as an entrepreneur, it's important to be able to kind of make your best guess of what's coming around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, you have to have a solid foundation. And for anyone who's done marketing over the last 20 years, your foundation is cracked. It's broken. And what that means is decisions that you're going to make as you try to turn and figure things out, they may be off a bit. And so what we did is we put together a course. It's an attribution certification course, because attribution is all about figuring out who gets the right credit.
Right.
And that's what really matters when it comes to marketing. It's about an hour and a half. There's no cost for it at all. And there's a quiz afterwards. You pass the quiz, you get a great certificate to put on LinkedIn, and it's right on our website at provalytics.com. So there you got it, an attribution certification course, because you'll understand.
Very cool. So that's going to help us. That's going to help us learn how to figure out where the lead actually came from, rather than listening to Google, Meta, and everybody saying it all came from them.
Yes, but even more important than that, it's going to educate you to the past, the present, and point you towards the future of what's coming, so that 2 years from now, when there's a change coming and you're able to see it,
right,
your listeners are going to say, my God, thank God I took that attribution certification
right,
for Provalytics, because now my foundation is stronger as a result.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome, Jeff. I appreciate it. So where do we need to go to be able to get that course?
I'll go to provalytics.com, provalytics.com.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I put it in the description as well, so people can just click it, get right there. And I'm assuming it's easy to find.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
right there. You'll see it, Attribution certified.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, I appreciate all your time, Jeff. Really great talking to you. Well, I'm sure we'll talk again here within the next year, and it'll be a completely different conversation. So looking forward to next time.
Same here, Shaheen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.